Hey scholars, welcome to the guided practice section of today's lesson. I'm going to read the reading and then help you guys break down the text so we can answer the questions in complete sentences. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and number our paragraphs first. We have paragraph 1. Let me add a layer here, okay. We have paragraph 1, 2, 3, and 4. I can't bold any words on the text, otherwise there would be bold words, so let's just go ahead and get started. In 1865, the Civil War had ended, and the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, was passed. Much of the South's farmland was destroyed in the war, and there were now 4 million newly freed slaves who weren't quite sure how to start their new lives. President Lincoln had a plan to rebuild the South and unite the country again, but he was assassinated before he could put his plan into action. Johnson became president after Lincoln. Because he was from the South, Johnson wanted to make things easier for those that lost the war. Johnson wanted the South to govern itself, but Congress placed strict laws on them. To get around these laws, Southern states began passing different laws called black codes that limited the freedom of now free African Americans. Reasons for black codes. Remember how the South had been destroyed in the Civil War? Now that slavery ended, Southerners wondered who was going to do the work to rebuild all the buildings, farms, and plantations. Whites in the South were going to lose their labor force if black people decided to work or even live somewhere else. White leaders used black codes to prevent this from happening. There were other reasons for black codes too. Former slave owners that were scared that former slaves would seek revenge after years of unfair and harsh treatment. And let's not forget that in the 1800s, many white Southerners thought that they were better than black people. It was wrong, but it was widely believed that African Americans were not as good, smart, or capable as white people. As a result, the whites thought that blacks needed to be controlled or guided in some way. Okay. Let's break this down paragraph by paragraph. So let's start with the first paragraph. The 13th Amendment, this is something we've already talked about before. It's kind of a review. 13th Amendment, and then I underline what it was: abolish slavery. Much of the South's farmland was destroyed. Newly freed slaves weren't quite sure how to start their new lives. This is all information that gives us a background of what has happened that sets up the stage for black codes to become a thing. Let's see. Johnson wanted the South to govern itself, but Congress placed laws on them. Because Congress placed strict laws on the South, Southern states began passing black codes. So there was a cause and effect. This was the cause. That's the effect. Okay, paragraph 3. Whites in the South were going to lose their labor force if black people decided to work or live somewhere else. So this is now getting into the reasons why black codes became a thing. So we may have had Congress's actions be the beginning of the black codes, but the adding on to the black codes was to help stop the issues that white people were going to start seeing if black people were going to leave where they had been for so long. Paragraph 4. There were other reasons for the black codes too. Former slave owners were scared. So again, some more reasons why more black codes were added. So not only were white people afraid that they would lose the people that would work the farm for them, they were also afraid that those same people would attack them for the years of harsh treatment under slavery. And then this is going to be an issue for hundreds of years, and it still kind of is an issue today. Definitely not as bad, though, where white people feel like they need to save or help or control not just black people, but any people of color because of this idea that for hundreds of years they believed that they were physically smarter, better than everyone else. All right, so let's use what we learned and try and answer these questions. So question number 1 says, what is the topic of this text? So what is this whole thing talking about? Well, it's in the title and it's in the 2 sections. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this whole thing is about black codes. But let's be more specific than that. So the first 2 paragraphs sounded like it was introducing black codes. So maybe this is introducing black codes, because this is introducing it to us and explaining it how it was introduced into the United States during that time. So what is the topic of this text? Well, I'm only asking you for 1 to 3 words. So let's just do introducing black codes. Cool. Let's look at number 2. Based on the text, what is the main idea? What does the author want us to know about the topic? We kind of answered it in number 1 already, but let's focus on this introducing part. Let's flesh that out. What does it mean to introduce something? To introduce something in this case is to explain how something came to be. What is the something in this example of this reading we're reading? The something is the black codes. So what is the main idea of the text? The main idea of the text is to explain, and this is where what I wrote here, to explain how, instead of something, I'm going to be more specific, how the black codes came to be. Cool. All right, let me make some space. Okay. Final question. Question number 3. Why did white Southerners pass black codes? I'll fix this when you guys do your version. Why did white Southerners pass codes? And then I gave you guys a sentence starter just like I did in number 2. White Southerners pass codes because, let's see if we can find evidence in the text. So in paragraph 3, we have this that I underlined here. They were going to lose their labor force. And in paragraph 4, another reason was that former slave owners were scared that former slaves would seek revenge. So I would honestly, if I were you, copy and paste these 2 examples, because these two are evidence for why whites passed black codes. So in my response, I would write, let me write it in a different color. White Southerners passed black codes because they were afraid of, and then here's where I would put what I underlined. They were afraid of losing their labor force, and they were afraid that former slaves would seek revenge. And that's what I would put here. So when you guys do this on your own, when it's your turn to do it, I would appreciate you guys copying and pasting that in. That lets me know that A, you watched the video, and B, that you know where to find evidence to support your answer. All right, scholars, this was it for the guided practice. Something new that I'm going to start doing beginning this lesson is I'm going to be providing you guys answers to the independent practice after you've finished the independent practice. That way you can go back and check your answers. So this is not the last video. There is one more video for you to watch to check your independent practice answers. See you there.